Hey guys. Welcome to Secrets Behind the Stars. All the details are in our video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share this video before we jump in. Thank you so much. For weeks, whispers in studio corridors and dimly lit trailers swelled into a rumor too loud to ignore. Gökberk Yildirim and Cemre Arda, appearing together for the very first time in a much-anticipated new project, found themselves at the center of a storm after talk of a so-called forbidden scene began to surface. An unplanned moment that, according to insiders, was improvised on the spot and captured by a skeleton crew under a tight veil of secrecy. At first, the production refused to acknowledge anything unusual. The set had been sealed, the crew instructed to let the performances speak and not the rumors. But the leaks trickled out anyway, stoking debates that spilled from private group chats into the public square. What allegedly unfolded was not a gratuitous spectacle, but a decisive confrontation. An emotionally loaded sequence placed at a crucial turning point in the story, the kind of moment that rearranges loyalties and forces characters to either break or transform. It was supposed to be brief. It wasn't. As the cameras rolled and the air tightened, Gökberk and Cemre sank so fully into their characters that the director refused to call cut. The scene stretched, deepened, and sharpened. The script was nudged aside, instinct took over. Then, after reviewing the footage, the director reworked the scene's placement and meaning, opting for a bolder narrative line. That judgment, more than anything, earned the scene its provocative nickname, Forbidden. People inside the production hint that what was captured was far more raw than initially planned. Meetings that should have been calm turned tense. Schedules shifted. A quiet tug-of-war began between the vision of the director and the caution of the executives. There are claims that the footage was handled differently from everything else, shot outside the normal workflow, stored separately, monitored with uncommon care. Special security was reportedly brought in to patrol the soundstage. Only a few were allowed to watch the monitors. Even among veterans, it said, the atmosphere felt unfamiliar, the kind of set stillness where every footstep is heard and every breath matters. A crew member, known among colleagues as the director's right hand, described what it felt like to be there. "We've never seen anything like this. The set was sealed for longer than I've ever experienced. The lighting was built to hold silence. The camera moved like it was eavesdropping on a confession. When it was over, no one spoke." There's talk of unusual lighting design, of shadow and firelight mingling with a cold wash from the practicals, a visual palette that broadened the show's vocabulary in an instant. Camera operators reportedly rehearsed in secret before the principal actors even arrived, tracing a choreography meant to catch unrepeatable expressions. What happened after is now part of the lore. Backstage, once the director finally called it, Gökberk and Cemre retreated to a quiet corner, then to the makeup room, saying little and letting the hum of hairdryers and the rattle of brush containers settle their pulse. They are both known for discipline, long rehearsals, long silences, late-night script notes, and those who saw them said the same thing. They looked like people who had left part of themselves on the floor and needed a moment to return. They reportedly spent a stretch of time with the director, going over the footage, asking for playbacks, noting tiny movements and the weight of pauses, speaking more with glances than words. They haven't confirmed any of this publicly. Not a denial, not an explanation. And that silence has only fed the appetite. Online, a familiar question ricocheted across fan pages, discussion threads, and midnight spaces. Will the scene be released? The production company, for now, is saying nothing. According to those who claim to have seen internal memos, there is no final decision on whether the scene finds its place intact in the broadcast cut. One camp believes it might appear in traces, just enough to stir hearts and drive conversation, while the fully realized version might be withheld as special content for digital release when the project lands. Another camp suggests it will be used only as a promotional accelerant, enough for a trailer beat, not enough to define an episode. Those debates go beyond duration. It's about tone. If the scene stays as captured, it could shift the series' mood line. The director reportedly argued with conviction that this is the moment the story grows teeth and soul, the scene that turns archetypes into people. Others wondered whether it was necessary to push so far when the show had already won an eager audience. But high-stakes storytelling rarely comes without friction, and no one doubts the impact. If it's included, insiders say, the characters will never stand in the same light again. Everyone agrees on one thing: the day it was filmed, the set was charged to the point of trembling. Crew who have seen everything still felt their own nerves. People held their breath. Monitors were watched hungrily and quietly. And when the final frame cut to black, an eerie hush swept through the room, as if the walls wanted time to think. The right-hand crew member said, "It was the kind of silence that means something just happened, and we'd be explaining it to ourselves later." Even the edit bay was not spared. Post-production became a pressure cooker. The first assembly, some say, was rougher than expected, more persistent. It lingered where the eye usually blinks, refused to soothe. That version didn't last. Revisions followed, then more, creating a handful of alternate cuts. Each one suggesting a different shade of consequence. That multiplicity is part of why the scene collected its reputation. Every cut told a slightly different truth. Every variation gave the debate new oxygen. Meanwhile, anticipation bloomed online. The latest teaser drop showed only a strobe of what looked like the moment, a near mask of anguish rippling across Cemre's face, the way Gökberk's shoulders seemed to brace as if remembering something he had no words for. It was a blink-and-miss-it fragment. To fans, it felt like confirmation. Comment sections flooded with predictions and pleas. If they air the full scene, the show will explode. This could redefine their careers. Some users, more cynical or simply savvy, suggested the secrecy is by design, a marketing slow burn that warms the audience without letting them see the fire. Inside the offices, the tremor was felt in spreadsheets and strategies. Executives saw the scene's gravity and immediately recalibrated the promotional plan. The target audience widened. The message narrowed. A new approach emerged: more mystery, fewer clues. Every second of footage earmarked for advertising was placed under a microscope. Would a longer shot ruin the spell? Would a shorter one kill the momentum? Meetings bled into evenings, and the scene, paradoxically, remained unseen. That tightening secrecy trickled down to the set. Fresh protocols were implemented, supposedly overnight. Personal phone cameras were banned outright. Call sheets were redacted. Copies of pages that referenced the scene were watermarked and encrypted. Disagreements, when necessary, were held behind closed doors, sometimes in quiet temporary rooms guarded by production assistants with a list of names. In post, access was segmented. Editors saw their portion and only their portion, passing encrypted timelines along a chain of trust so strict it felt ceremonial. There's also talk about the headspace of the two leads the day the cameras captured the moment. People say Gökberk kept to himself, eyes on the floor and hands in his pockets, speaking only when spoken to, and even then with a softness that felt unusual. After the take, the director is said to have offered him a break, the kind of gentle invitation you extend to an actor who just stared down a difficult ledge. He declined. He wanted to keep working, to funnel whatever lingered into the next setup, the next line, the next breath of character. Cemre, by contrast, took solitude. She reportedly slipped into the makeup room, lights down low, and asked to sit a few minutes without conversation, without mirrors. When she emerged, she carried herself like someone who had wiped rain from her face and decided to step back outside. Through all this, the crew's admiration only grew. The pair showed up for the remaining scenes, hit marks, kept pace, and guarded the set's tone with respect. It's one thing to make noise with a rumor. It's another to do the work, take the note, and be ready for the next slate. One persistent murmur says the scene didn't originate in any earlier draft. It was born late. The director, inspired by chemistry that surfaced in rehearsal and a stray exchange between the actors, decided to build an opportunity for it on camera. The phrase that keeps coming back from private conversations is simple and stubborn: the heart of the project. Those who heard the director speak behind closed doors recall a particular line: "If we don't use this, the story will breathe, but it won't sing." In that framing, leaving the moment on the cutting room floor would be more than a business decision. It would be a kind of narrative amputation. None of this answers the one question fans hurl into the void every night: when will we see it? Some insiders predict we'll get an extended cut parked behind a password, a limited time drop on the platform's digital hub. Others are convinced the broadcast will tiptoe around the thunder, letting it rumble just off-screen, preserving the mystique and stimulating weekly conversation. There's even a theory that the scene will be teased in a mid-season recap, a fragment here, a fragment there, a breadcrumb trail back to a hidden loaf. What seems inevitable is that the show's course has already been altered. If the scene enters the canon unchanged, the relationships on screen will tilt. The characters will be more fragile, more dangerous. If it doesn't, the legend will swell, and viewers will watch every other scene through the hole where this one might have been. Either way, the audience has been primed to see more than they saw before. It says something about the power of performance that mere rumor can shake an entire production. It says something about Gökberk Yildirim and Cemre Arda that people who weren't in the room still felt the tremor. The two have always been disciplined, always professional, carefully private without being cold. This time, that restraint is shaping the narrative as much as any marketing plan. They aren't denying. They aren't confirming. They're letting the work speak. So we circle back to the image: a sealed set, a lean crew, a director who believes certain truths can only be captured when no one is watching. A lighting rig that turns breath into architecture. A camera that loves faces more than dialogue. Two actors who arrive in character and leave a little less themselves. The rest is patience. The rest is the sound of an audience waiting, not sure which would thrill them more, the reveal or the restraint. As the curtain of secrecy thickens, pressure on the team only grows. Schedules tighten, conversations shrink, and the project's momentum hums beneath the surface like a secret generator. Whether the scene airs tomorrow or hides until the finale or never sees daylight at all, there's no denying this: it has already done the work of a phenomenon. It has raised expectations, sharpened debates, and turned a new collaboration between Gökberk Yildirim and Cemre Arda into an event that extends beyond the frame. This brings us to the end of our video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars and share the video. Goodbye.